Each year, to bring an Asian Heritage Festival, Calgary and Winnipeg hold the FascinAsian Film Festival. The festival celebrates Asian culture and local filmmakers and professionals while bringing communities together to enjoy the art of cinema. Let's chat about Hollywood, cultural representation, the film industry in Manitoba, and the upcoming festival with President Alan Wong.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alan Wong. I'm the president of the FascinAsian Film Festival and one of the founders. I'm also the executive director of the Gimli International Film Festival. So my life is film festivals right now. But I'm an individual. I'm Manitoba-born individual with a Chinese heritage. My parents are from Hong Kong and the southern part of China. And for many years, I also volunteered with the Asian Heritage Society to put on Asian Heritage Month events in Manitoba.
How did you get all involved in film? Why is it that you felt, yeah, this is something I want to dedicate all my time to, basically?
I've always loved movies. I grew up watching movies. My parents were both very busy working in a Chinese restaurant. They owned a Chinese restaurant, and so I was basically left to myself a lot. And kind of like the television was my babysitter, and so I ended up watching a lot of TV, a lot of movies. And then back then too, there was like sort of like the rise and subsequent fall of video rental stores, and so like I kind of lived through that in my childhood, right? Like we rent VHS tapes, and then it became DVDs, and then now it's just everything's streaming. So it's been a pretty interesting time.
Yeah, I think for many of us, it's almost a nostalgic thought of this point, going to the video store, specifically like Blockbuster. I remember going there all the time, and you're just looking through all the different like covers of the movies and be like, okay, this one looks interesting, let's grab that. And sometimes you'd find some amazing gems in there. So I guess it's maybe like unfortunate part of like things advancing that we don't get to have that kind of tactile experience anymore for going through films and movies. But streaming has allowed us to get so many, right?
Exactly. And I remember I'd spend like an hour just like looking through like like the bins at Movie Village. Do you remember Movie Village when they had those like giant like sections of like, get 3 movies for $5 or whatever, right? So I'd be like,
oh yeah, or like the bargain bin at a Walmart.
Exactly. But like I equate that to like doom scrolling on Netflix, just kind of like seeing what you want to see, maybe like, putting it in your list, but then not actually watching something and like doing that for like an hour. So there's a lot of comparisons. Anyways, I obviously love movies. I've worked in movies, and I've acted in some stuff, and I'm also the president of ACTRA, which is the Union for Film and Television Actors here in Winnipeg. And I've done sound, I've done some producing, I've worked in the production studio, production office, I mean, in various capacities. And so, yeah, my life has been a lot about revolved a lot about film, and so to merge that with sort of my love for Asian culture and the desire to sort of expose more people to Asian culture, and also the stories of Asian people in not in Asia, right, the diaspora. So to spread those stories, to create a bit of more, I don't know, cultural empathy, a little bit more understanding amongst society. Those are all sort of the goals of the organization.
And for some people, they might be surprised seeing film festivals out here in the prairies. For FascinAsian Film Festival, you've got the group in Calgary, and we've got the one here in Winnipeg, and people might be thinking, why? Why in the prairies? Like, what's going on? Like, what is it not in like Toronto or Vancouver? But I think something I've been learning, well, that too, but like I've been learning is just how vast the film and television industry is here, specifically in Manitoba.
And like I know about this because of wearing multiple hats in the industry, but it is probably one of the fastest growing industries in Manitoba. Last year we did a total of $350 million in production, and so that's like almost $1 million a day. right? Which is the highest level that it's ever been. And so with we have a new studio opened up this past year, Big Sky, and we have news of another one opening up in Niverville in the coming months. And so things are shaking. And then we also have the direct flight to LA now. So in terms of like Winnipeg as a film production hub, it's business is booming. That being said, we want to also, develop the community here of emerging filmmakers. There's actually quite a lot of really great emerging filmmakers here. It's a very friendly scene for it. So with resources very readily available, this is just another way to kind of celebrate our community, celebrate some of these stories and these filmmakers, and just watch some great movies that maybe wouldn't normally come across your radar if you didn't look for it.
You had a call to getting those filmmakers to come send their films out to the FascinAsian Film Festival. How many people did you have submitting this year?
We opened it up this year quite a lot. Like in the past 2 years, we were the first year really was only like Calgary and Winnipeg, and then we got some submissions from Toronto and Vancouver because we partnered with those film festivals, with those specific Asian film festivals. And then last year we opened it up to sort of Canada, the United States, and so got quite a few, maybe like 30, 40 submissions from across Canada and the United States. But this year we opened it up internationally and just was inundated with requests and submissions. And so I think total was over 180 short film submissions, which we had to go through. So, which is a lot of time and effort to watching all these films. But then in the end, we actually expanded our short film programming because there were so many great short films. And so we had to like basically, we were going to show 5 feature films, but now we're only showing 4, and we're doing an extra short film program instead.
Wow. So just kind of going through those submissions, how are you feeling about the variety?
Great. Like they're all films made in the past 2 years, and so there was definitely some common themes that we saw. Because of the pandemic, a lot of existential sort of topics, so a lot of topics about family, a lot of topics about a lot of films about that's centered around identity. Um, and isolation. And so it was very interesting to see some of the different films that we got from all over the world.
When people are going out on the website to kind of register and sign up, what can they expect from this year's event?
They can expect it to be the best one yet, actually. We have a beautiful new venue for the first couple of days. It's at the Inuit Art Center at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, Kamayak. And so we're using their Learning Steps room, which is a 90-seat sort of lecture theater type of space. It's beautiful, and it's going to be great, and perfect for sort of like what we need it for. And then we're doing events there on the Friday and the Saturday. And then Saturday night, actually, we have a new partnership to screen a documentary called Big Fight in Little Chinatown, which is a fantastic doc. And we're screening that at the Winnipeg Chinese Cultural Center. And they're actually doing a tour across Canada and the United States. They got funding to basically do free community screenings in all these different Chinatowns across the country. And so we're partnering them to hold. Yeah, to put that event on, and it'll be great. There'll be like lots of like there'll be interesting food. There'll be a Q&A with the filmmaker who's flying in to be a part of it. It'll be great. There'll be some prizes, and that'll be a lot of fun. And then Sunday we're back at Cinematheque, which is where we were last year, and that'll be a great day as well. We're very excited to be hosting the Canadian premiere of a movie called Past Lives, which got like tons of great reviews and buzz from Sundance and South by Southwest and Berlinale, and Elevation picked it up, and they're going to be releasing it in June, but we get this before anybody.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's just
so
amazing.
we anticipate that show is going to be sold out, so get your tickets quick.
This festival is all about celebrating local film, but also just Asian culture and Asian heritage as well, and just kind of going in that vein. In our last conversation, we're talking a little bit about how the industry, specifically out here in like the West and Hollywood, we're starting to see it open up a little bit more to the diversity of the people that call Canada and the United States home.
Hmm.
And this past year was just another example of things continuing to expand and grow and go beyond just the traditional, like, yep, this is a Western film, that's it, like white leads, that sort of thing. Because, like, best supporting actor, from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kiwi Kwan.
yeah, thank you. I was about to butcher his name, so thank you. And then also there's like RRR, they did a dance performance there.
Oh yeah,
There's
RRR
just
was
so
great.
much.
What it is now is the identity of Asian cinema, and that sort of like the stories of Asians, even of the diaspora, is starting to that identity is starting to take shape a little bit more and become its own thing. I mean, and this is all kind of it's a snowball effect, right? Like it all started with talking about the fact that there was all this tokenism in Western movies and media, but then also the popularization of Asian cinema, right? Korean cinema. Korean movies have been, for a while now, been really like sort of like the pinnacle of Asian cinema, right? And so that is being recognized in the West, and that all kind of stems from, like Parasite, won the Oscar one year, and the Old Boy, the work of Park Chan-wook has been really, really uh, critically acclaimed for many years, and he's still going and has a new movie out this year. And so there's so much going on as the rise of K-pop, right? Like just like Asian culture in general, anime, right? Like the popularization of anime. It was always popular, like, or there was at least a fan base, but that it's just grown so much that, and I see some Pokemon behind you, I see
Yeah.
Totoro behind you, so like the popularization and mainstreaming of all this like kind of Asian culture has really helped sort of bridge that gap between seeing it as this little niche thing to seeing it as, okay, they've got their own identity here in the West, and it makes a big difference, I think, in the acceptance of just normalizing seeing Asians on screen, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? Like an amazing movie, probably one of the best movies, regardless of country or of origin or story that I've seen in a long time. And just because of the creativity, right? Because of the creativity and the characters, the richness of the characters and who they were. So, yeah, it's very exciting.
And I think we're just going to continue to see amazing stories like that. As things continue to grow and we have these ideas spreading, maybe there'll be like international directors that start working on like Hollywood projects, things that were, well, I mean, they're already starting to do that with I think it's called Star Wars Visions, where they reached out to animation studios across the world to showcase different things and have different perspectives of like just this one kind of setting of Star Wars, but seeing like, oh, what do Japanese studios do, or like a Korean studio do, or like Western studios, like taking all these ideas and building something. And I think it's only beneficial to cinema to have this diversity of thought and creativity coming together.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at even something like Arcane, like the video game that animated series based on the video game, they worked with a French animation company right on it, but like a lot of the stories and even like some of the creators and that sort of thing, they originated from Asia, but there's also this mix of diversities because it's a very popular like game and
Yeah, League of Legends.
yeah, company, right? So like
Yeah.
just like this globalization of media, entertainment, and cultures is fusing together because we understand so much more now what other cultures are like, right? And how we can incorporate some of that into what we're seeing in mainstream media.
And like talking about just the influences, like I'm seeing so many people now that are creating films all grew up on anime, and I'm seeing so much anime influences in everything now, and it's just so much fun. What was it? The recent John Wick movie that came out, they had that whole scene in Osaka, and it's just so fun to watch and everything, and just the way they're kind of approached that film in a different style than what you would typically get from your traditional kind of shooter Hollywood movie. And like just how that series has kind of evolved has also been interesting.
Yeah, I haven't seen the latest one yet, but that's true. It's totally exciting, and I can see like okay, so you know how right now Marvel and DC movies are like superhero movies are the thing, right? And
Yeah.
that's because there's a certain generation that grew up on comic books,
Hmm.
right? The next phase is going to be the generation that grew up on anime, video games, like these more in-depth, these other kinds of intensive stories, and I'm excited to see what that next phase of mainstream media is going to look like because it'll just be yeah exactly what you said uh, it'll be a combination of all these things and yeah it's just very exciting.
Just the change in my thought is I think we're entering a golden age, specifically in animation. With things like Into the Spider Verse, I think really opened the door to potential creativity that there was a wall for a long time where animation was just kind of they're trying hard to make it like realistic but also stylized at the same time, and they just hit a wall. Like when we're looking at all these like Pixar and Disney movies, they're trying to go as much as the technology can go. Huge files in the editing process, but sometimes middling returns in terms of the visual or the excitement level. And then Into the Spider Verse, I feel just kind of changed everything because we have, there's Arcane that kind of went in that style a little bit. Mitchell's versus the Machines. You have the sequel to Into the Spider Verse now. Puss in Boots. That movie was really good and going with that style. And then you have the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that's also going in this kind of new creative, like sketchy style that allows for more animated freedom while, taking a little bit of the work and effort off of these animators.
I think for a while the focus was on technology, right? Because CGI, we wanted to see how far we could push it and see how far we could take the realism of CGI. And now we've gotten to a point where most modern blockbusters are like at least half, if not more, CGI, right? Like all the superhero movies, it's mostly CGI, but the so now what is the next phase of animation? It all really comes back down to story, right? It all comes back to if the story is solid, and then you can kind of be creative with the artistic elements of it. It's a very wholesome sort of. It has to be a wholesome process, and you have to think about all the elements of a movie in order to make it good. You can't just be technologically stunning or visually stunning, and then the story is like pretty generic, right? Like you need to have something more than that, and um, I think because we've grown up now with so much media and entertainment, everybody's becoming more and more sophisticated in their tastes, right? Because we've seen it all now, right? Now, how are we going to stay fresh? How are we going to stay innovative and creative and keep people on their toes and, and not be predictable? And so that's the next challenge, I think, for the next generation of filmmakers.
Elevating specifically in animation, because for the longest time, at least out here in the West, animation was always seen as like the kid format. Like, oh, cartoons are for kids. Like, it's don't worry about the story. It's just something to distract them. Whereas in countries like Japan with anime, it encompasses such a wide array of audiences because you'll have anime that's designed specifically for children, but then you have some really, really dark adult kind of themed animation. And I think what we've been seeing from even with like shows on Disney or like the Disney Channel with Owl House or Amphibia and stuff like that, where they're pushing beyond it being just a kids show. Of course, it's a kids show, but then it has this wide appeal, and they're telling these deep, dramatic stories at times.
Yeah, and it's and that's great because there's so many of us, grew up watching animation like the early days of animation. Like I remember as a kid watching, Land Before Time and all the early Disney movies, and even like Looney Tunes and stuff like that, these early cartoons. I mean, yeah, it was great, but where are we going with it, right? And it can't just be for kids because we have such a there's such a there's another element to it, and it's this creative aspect because it is art, right? Art on paper, basically, moving art on paper. And I think the popularity of South Park, I mean, South Park really kind of broke the mold when it came to, having animation that was more adult oriented, right? Adult humor, adult topics, and like really talking about, talking about politics, like making statements, kind of sneaky, making statements in their stories about life and about society. And and it's just kind of gone kept on going from there, like Rick and Morty and all that stuff. Like, so I could totally see it being even more prevalent in the future, with like dramas and stuff like that. Just people are gonna want to see it. And I think with I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that affects animation in the future, because you'll just be able to get a new level. There's going to be a new level of animation that's going to be coming out. It will be different, and I think that that's how artists like and animators will need to sort of differentiate themselves, um, because I don't know if they'll be able to compete with AI when it comes to making things look real, right? But they will be able to compete when it comes to creativity, and that's some of the good things about the arts is that it's you can't replace it. You can't replace it with computers, and no matter how sophisticated an AI will get, true creativity has a sort of intangible humanism to it.
Well, yeah, there's the whole a story behind people creating something. You could have an AI that basically creates something, you put it up in a museum and it's like, look at it, and then you have people look at the other ones. But the one that was created by a person has a story behind it. And I think that completely changes everything, that that there's a history, effort, thought, pain at times that goes into a work, and that creates the whole antithesis of it. And AI can be a very useful tool for doing things, but yeah, it'll never replace artists. I think they made an anime where all of the backgrounds were AI generated, and they were great, but they lost a little bit just in terms of like changing things, because sometimes when you're setting up a scene, you'll want to change things afterwards. But we could have a whole conversation about AI within.
Yeah, this could be a podcast. This could be a podcast, man.
For the FascinAsian Film Festival, celebrating Asian culture and celebrating Winnipeg creators. So why don't you tell me a little bit just about the industry and the creators that you're meeting here in Winnipeg?
It's a small community. A lot of us, know each other, or if not, I mean, like, we're really only a couple of degrees separation away when it comes to knowing each other. And there's more and more, I think, young talent that I'm seeing coming up in the industry now, like Asian heritage, right? Like a lot of great Filipino, because we have such a strong Filipino community here, a lot of great Filipino filmmakers coming up, and talent, just like in other areas too, like, graphic design, wardrobe, whatever, right? Like all these different facets of filmmaking that collaborate to produce the final result. One thing that I will kind of talk about a little bit is we have an award this year that we're presenting for the first time, for an emerging filmmaker. And this award is named in tribute to Aaron Hembrador, who was a young filmmaker who passed away this past year, who was, the winner of 2 awards at our last FascinAsian Film Festival in 2022. And so obviously that was a shock to the community. A lot of people were friends or had worked on her projects with her, and so we've wanted to find a way to pay tribute to her. And she was really was an emerging talent. Like all of her work was really solid, and it was getting better and better, and she was working to develop her first feature. And so we just feel there was a really sad sort of like star that was snuffed out a little bit too soon. And so to celebrate her, we've partnered with Frank Digital to create this award for an emerging filmmaker that'll give them a $1,000 cash prize, but as well a 250, sorry, not 250, $2,500 rental credit from Frank Gear, which is their rental division. So that'll go a long way towards helping a filmmaker make their next short film and develop their career.
part of FascinAsian Film Festival is also kind of to kick off. What do you hope people are thinking about as we head into this month?
I think the Asian Heritage Month has always been a little bit, it seems like it could be like a bit insular, right? Like it's only for the Asian community, but it's not. It's really to celebrate Asian community, Asian culture, but also Asian contributions to Canada, right? And so there's lots of events on this month or the month of May. Our festival is just one of many events that are happening, and so I would encourage anyone to just go experience it. It's a beautiful culture. There's beautiful things going on, and you don't have to be Asian to appreciate it. And I think you're someone who appreciates Asian culture, and so you can kind of attest to that. Not everybody is on that same wavelength, right? They think, oh, that's for Asians. We don't, not for us if they're not Asian, but that's not true. It's for everybody. So I encourage everybody to keep an open mind and come check out something.
I mean, that's what it means to be Canadian, right? To celebrate your culture, but at the same time celebrate others' cultures with them, bringing this whole identity of what it means to be Canadian, of all of these diverse backgrounds coming together and building an amazing tapestry of backgrounds and identities into all facets of life here.
That's what it's like to grow up here too. For me, anyways, I watched a lot of TV and movies when I was younger, there was a white characters or black characters, and I never thought that it wasn't for me. I could always find something to relate to. Like one of my favorite movies of all time, Lean on Me, right? Or Stand by Me, Lean on Me. No, it's Lean on Me with about the school, the principal in the school and turning that school around and stuff. One of my favorite movies of all time, Shawshank Redemption, right? Like some of these like great movies, the greatest movies, the greatest stories don't necessarily have anything to do with culture or a specific culture, and it can be for everybody.
Yeah, so there is a ton of exciting things that are coming up at the FascinAsian Film Festival. I mean, the creator of Kim's Convenience is going to be there. First-time Korean-Canadian director Celine Song. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things. Where can people go to get their tickets or where to find out more about the events?
The easiest way to do it is just to go to our website, fascinasian.ca. That's where the portal will be for you to be able to check out either Winnipeg or Calgary's programs, and then you can click through to get to the page where you can purchase tickets. And our box office is online right now, so you just have to create an account through Eventive, and you'll be able to either purchase passes that you can use to book your tickets, or purchase individual tickets as well.
The FascinAsian Film Festival takes place May 4th to 7th. Do you have any stories you'd like us to cover, or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.